It's my great privilege to be here with Grant Hill and Tony Kelly, the founders of WaterAid Australia. So WaterAid started when no other water, sanitation and hygiene organisation existed. Grant, tell us how it all began.
Well, Rosie, WaterAid began out of an existing campaign organised by Australian development organisations. There's about 30 to 40 organisations that came together in 2002 and 3 to highlight the issues of dirty water and the lack of toilets causing disease and death in countries all over the world, and that we could make a difference, and particularly to put some pressure on the Australian government to put some more money into solutions. Out of that work, that's where WaterAid came from.
And Tony, tell us, how did you get involved as a managing director of Yarra Valley Water?
I got involved initially, Rosie, through the promotional campaigns that Grant set up. People in the water industry have either got a strong social conscience or a green tinge, and also intuitively understand the value of clean drinking water and effective sanitation. So it just rang true, and Grant got a great response. And I was, right from the very get-go, I was very interested. So
it's a pretty amazing thing for a brand new organisation to be launched by the Foreign Minister. How did that happen?
Well, we had to get tax-deductible gift status for the organisation, and that required us to get approval from the federal government. And aid came under the jurisdiction of the Foreign Minister, Alexander Downer at the time. So he called us in, and we had 15 minutes to explain to him why we should get this status. And the night before, I can remember being quite stressed about how we're going to make the maximum use of this 15 minutes. But when we got there, we spent an hour with him because he was fascinated with the model. It was the first NGO in Australia, I think, that had the backing of an entire industry, that being the water industry. He loved the model, and I think he saw it as a possible precedent for other NGOs.
I know in those very early days there were some amazing people that you collaborated with. Can you tell us about some of those early days and the people that you were collaborating with?
What we did through the Water Matters campaign is establish a very small and tightly focused steering committee to look at setting up a WaterAid style group in Australia. And one of the first people from the industry that came on board was Chris Davies, who at the time was the CEO of the professional body for the water industry, the Australian Water Association. Chris was very supportive and opened a lot of doors for us in the early stages. A guy called Brett Matheson from Tony's organisation at the time. We also had a couple of fantastic lawyers that we had contacts with through TIR, Jane Furness and Warren Kalinko. And we also had a sustainability professional called David Allen over in Perth, and he provided some valuable insights. So it was this group of people who worked diligently to actually provide some leadership and guidance, particularly for myself as we went to actually pitch this concept around the industry. And I also want to acknowledge that TIR Australia, who was the sort of the lead organisation behind Water Matters, continue to provide support, paid for my time to do a lot of the work, the startup work. They saw the opportunities there for how this could transform the lives of people in our region.
WaterAid has grown from WaterAid in the UK, WaterAid Australia and WaterAid US to now an amazing international federation. Can you tell us the story of how the federation came to be?
When Grant and I first went to London in 2003 to negotiate with WaterAid UK at the time, they thought of themselves pretty much as a British charity. But we, right from the start, felt that this was a very strong brand which had enormous international potential. They were very, very generous in the final analysis because they agreed to set up WaterAid International, and they gifted all of their IP that existed in the UK business into WaterAid International, which was a risk for them, but they did it. And as a consequence of that, I think the organisation has grown, very strongly since that point in time. US has got stronger, Sweden has joined the family, Japan has joined the family, and I think over time, my expectation is more and more countries will join.
We have had amazing influence in Australia, as you talked about earlier, and a key vehicle for that's been the WASH reference group. Can you tell us more about that very special collaboration?
Yeah, well, emerged out of our work in 2007 with the Getting the Basics Right report. We ended up establishing a regular meeting with NGO people on water and sanitation and hygiene. And WaterAid became the secretariat, the coordinator, the person who pulled it together. And it's really important to develop trust. If you're actually going to do that work effectively, you need to be a trusted partner, someone that they have confidence is going to do the right thing by other people. WaterAid's established that trust, demonstrated that it can think of the totality of the goals of bringing water and sanitation for all. And it's been exciting because that group continues to meet today, continues to do exciting stuff. So that's a lasting legacy.
Tony, what's your long-term vision for WaterAid as we strive to 2030 and everyone everywhere getting access to safe water and sanitation?
I can remember when we started WaterAid, I was very ambitious. You know, we had a target of $5 million by 2005, 10 million by 2010, 15 million by 2015. And when I look at it, we've pretty well followed that trend. So I see no reason, particularly under your leadership, Rosie, we can't get to 20 by 2020. If I, send a message to the leaders in the water industry, my own personal experience of WaterAid was, when I look back on my career, it's probably one of the things that gave me the greatest level of satisfaction. I know if I just stayed in my business and worked hard in my own business, Yarra Valley Water at the time, I could have worked 24 hours a day and made that much difference. Yep. But if I put the same effort into something like WaterAid, you're literally saving lives. And that opportunity still exists for leaders in the water industry, and I strongly encourage them to get involved for that very reason.
Grant, what's your vision for WaterAid Australia going forward?
To be able to continue to build on the influencing work, to look creatively. You don't always know immediately what are influencing opportunities, so it does take some careful thought and careful reflection, and to actually surprise ourselves about where we can actually leverage influence. And I think we've been doing some creative things like our work in Cambodia. So I think there's a lot of things to build on, but surprise me.
Fantastic. On behalf of all the staff of WaterAid Australia, all of our partners and all of the communities that we serve, I'd like to thank Grant and Tony for your incredible leadership and vision. We have created WaterAid in our region, and we can strive to achieve our vision of everyone everywhere having access to safe water, decent toilets and hygiene by 2030.